Welcome back, Dolphins. Does Tua have the best offensive line that he's had since he's been in Miami? We're going to discuss that in a little bit more, but make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Helps this channel and this video grow, and I appreciate you all very much. Let's get into it. So we're going to talk about, I think we go back maybe a couple years to when Tua was like first with Mike McDaniel. And we have to look at that offensive line. So when you take a look at the offensive line that he had, it was basically freshly signed Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson. And what people tend to forget is that it's seemingly that Tua has had the worst offensive line every single year that he's been in the league. And even with this offensive line, we have to remember back to the Denver game when we basically hit him with the 72 burger. And the reason behind that offensive line was healthy up until the next game. That offensive line was gelling up until the next game. And then, Isaiah Wynn got injured, and I think Austin Jackson got injured, and then Connor Williams got injured, and then, surprisingly, Teron Armstead got injured. Will have the best offense that they've had in a long time. And the thing with this is you have to understand that when you take a look back at, the premier offense that we had when we were the number one offense in the league, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, we just drafted Devon Achane. But besides that, it was like basically nobody else. We didn't really have anyone, at that point. When you look at this offense right here, and this is why, it's like sometimes I don't know how a lot of us watch some of the other Miami Dolphins people, because they essentially naysay every single thing that happens on this team, where it's like it doesn't matter what it is bad. Doesn't matter what. I think I was watching Reason the other day or yesterday. Guy he had on there basically was like, I hate the Quinn Ewers pick. I think it's a stupid pick. And it's like, bro, it's a 7th round pick. Like, what do you hate about it? It's like, what are you going to get at that point instead of Quinn Ewers in the 7th round? And I think it was like our second 7th round pick. Some of it is like too much. Where some of these people, it's just like they want their team to be bad. I don't understand why you want your team to be bad, but I digress. We look at this offense right now, and yes, the whole Tyreek Hill situation, that is something that we have to take, into sight, where we don't know what he's going to do this year. We don't know where he's going to be. I'm hoping, it doesn't look like we're trading him. It looks like we're just going to play out this last year, call it a day. But what I do see is that with this offense right now, it's moving and shifting more towards a primary target base for Waddle. He's going to be the number one guy, the primary target on most plays, and Tyreek Hill will be the second now. And people seem to tend to forget that, we have Jonnu Smith, boys. This dude was a stud last year. He is an all-around amazing tight end, exactly what the Dolphins used last year. He made an abundance of plays. People seem to forget that Jonnu Smith is on the team. We seem to forget that the other years we didn't have any tight end that had any sort of reliability at all. Now we have a superstar at tight end where he is literally like the epitome of a Tyreek Hill at the tight end position, where he can catch the ball and he runs basically a 4-3-4-4. You have Devon Achane, which I think with this year what we're going to see is Jalen Wright or Ollie Gordon much more taking over the role of being the main inline back. And Devon Achane is also going to be much more of a receiver. That's what they're probably going to use him for, where he's going to be doing sort of like Tyreek Hill motions and all that to get him open. So when you look at this offensive line, think of it right now. We had Connor Williams back in the day. Aaron Brewer is very similar to Connor Williams. Both very good centers that we transitioned from this and that, and they became centers. Actually, Bushbury seems to be a very good taking a guard and turning him into a center coach. You would now have Jonas Savaiinaea, which I don't know if I say his name right, but whatever, Savaiinaea, whatever it is, he's going to be on the right guard position. And if you look at this dude, now I know you haven't seen him on the field, but the thing is that he's going to be a good pick. He's going to be, bare minimum, he's going to be an average offensive lineman. He's going to be able to block for Tua. Austin Jackson on the right. People are sleeping on Austin Jackson and what actually happened last year when he went down. When Austin Jackson went down, this whole entire line fell apart. We were rushing for hundreds of yards every single game when Austin Jackson was in, and then when he was out, nothing. We couldn't run for like 5 yards. Austin Jackson's going to be on the right, and he's going to be, now we're going to have Jonah in the middle of basically two veteran players. Left guard, you're going to have James Daniels, who last year, before he was in the injury, before he got the injury that he had, he was probably, if not the best guard in football, top 3 guard in football. So we're going to have him on the left guard side. And then Patrick Paul is, like, obviously the only one that, a lot of us are like, I saw good things last year, but we need to see what he can do this year. But the thing is that's not Tua's blind side. Tua's blind side is Austin Jackson, which we're fine with that over there. So when you look at this offensive line, if Patrick Paul can be serviceable and Jonah Savannah can be serviceable, Tua is going to have his best offensive line in years. And we say this preferencing that if they all stay healthy. Obviously injuries happen and it is what it is, but hopefully this offensive line can finally stay healthy. And I'm going to be honest with you, we're going to be able to see what Tua can actually do, because people want to blame Tua for a lot of the losses when we play good teams. That's not necessarily what there is things at fault, of course, 100%. But I think you take a guy that isn't a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen, and you give him a very bad offensive line, and you play these good teams, what ends up happening is he has way less time to throw. And, of course, the reason why he runs is because Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, when they have crap offensive lines or the blocking is bad, they run and they make a play. Tua, I swear this year, cannot do that. He cannot run. So when you're playing good teams, they just demolish the offensive line that's around him, whereas when you play lesser teams, they don't really have more than 1 or 2 guys that can pass rush. You can scheme for that. But when you play a good team, they have a full defensive front, which basically demolishes our offensive line typically, and Tua has no time to throw, and he has to just get the ball out. With this year, we will be able to see what Tua can actually do, because people they don't think that. If you look at Tua's offensive line, he had one good one, and he put up 72 points on the Broncos, which at the end of that year, they started becoming one of the better teams in the league. I think they almost were 500 at the end of the year. They were kind of like in contention. And then this year, they were a playoff team. So put up 72 points on that team with the good offensive line. He's never had a consistent good offensive line. Jalen Hurts, I don't think he's that great of a quarterback. I just think he's had the best offensive line in football every single year and the top weapons. Tua has the weapons now. He has Jonnu Smith. He has, Waddle. We'll see what Tyreek Hill does. He has Devon Achane. If he can have one of the better offensive lines of football, which I think we're still going to go out and get, a guard or something like that to compete so that, Liam Eichenberg doesn't have to come in. But honestly, Liam Eichenberg, for like a couple plays, he's serviceable. But, the thing is, God willing, this offensive line stays healthy. Tua will have one of the best, if not the best, offensive line that he's had since he's been in the league. And I want to preface this. Maybe you can, there's other YouTubers that are talking about this too. If Tua has a healthy offensive line, I don't think this team is going like 9 and whatever. I think people are really just underselling the only weak spot on this team is the cornerback position. If you really look at it, the safeties, you can't get any worse than last year. And Anthony Weaver did pretty decent with the defense that he had last year. The defense is pretty much set besides corner. And if you look at the offense is probably weapon-wise, like on paper, is the best offense that we've had since Tua was in the league. If you really look at this offense on paper, now of course the anomaly is Tyreek Hill, but if you really look at this, the offensive line is set. Tight ends are set. Jonnu Smith is a superstar. Tyreek Hill and Waddle, set. Malik Washington as the slot guy, set. It's like, and you even have Westbrook-Ikine, who was basically the second or third option on the Titans. He's also in the wide receiver room. And then, Taj Washington and Eric Izukama and, even the undrafted free agents, which we picked up. So some of those guys are going to be making, this is probably the best wide receiver room that we've had in a while. Because typically it was like Braxton Berrios and freaking, what's the other guy's name? I forgot his name. Best wide receiver room. The running back room. I loved Mostert for a while, but again, he ran well, that 1 year because we schemed up and the offensive line was blocking for him. But you have Devon Achane, you have Jalen Wright, who I think people are sleeping on. I think he's going to be having a breakout year this year. And then in goal line and first and whatever, fourth and whatever, you have Ollie Gordon, who's 230 and can run people over. You have probably the best running back room that you've had since, Tua's come in. So when you look at this offense and this offensive line, I think people are sleeping on what we're going to be capable of this year. I think, when you look back, obviously the only thing is Tyreek Hill and is Tua going to stay healthy and the offensive line. If everyone can stay healthy and Tyreek Hill doesn't become a nuisance, this offense is probably going to be the best that we've had since Tua was in the league. It's probably going to be Tua's best offensive year. I think people are sleeping on it. You're sleeping on it. Like, so many people want to be negative about the Miami Dolphins. Give them a chance. You don't come into this year trying to suck. Give them a chance. See what happens. But if you look on paper, this team should be legit. The only thing we're missing is corners, which there should be something happening, pretty soon. But that's the only hole. Besides that, everything else is set. Like, we've had the most complete team that we've had for a very long time, again, besides corners, which they're going to figure that out, probably more towards the beginning of training camp. They're going to sign, whoever they're going to sign, Asante Samuel or Rasul Douglas or whatever. But the way that they're kind of doing this, I feel like they have somebody in the works. I don't think that they're just going to be like, I think Hader Kohu's going to do his thing. I think people are, kind of not understanding that maybe Cam Smith might come into the fold. But like I said, besides that, this offense is the most complete offense that we've had for a very long time. And I think people are sleeping on what this offense is going to do. And they're going to wake a lot of people up during the beginning of the season. They're going to wake a lot of people up with how well we perform. Especially just the gelling together too. Having players all come together instead of being separate cliques and all that stuff. You guys are going to be surprised this offseason. I think they have one of the better offenses in the NFL coming into this season. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Like and subscribe, like I said, and appreciate you all. Fins up, baby. Peace.